Hello and welcome to Take Me Outside Week. My name is Rachel. I'm the Education Program Coordinator with Take Me Outside, and I'm joined by Julie, who's our Education Program Manager. Julie's going to be supporting behind the scenes today, helping any sort of technical difficulties that might arise. So if you need any help or you're having any issues, feel free to use the comment section to let us know. We're very, very fortunate to be joined by Dr. David Suzuki for today's session. And before I hand it over to Dr. David Suzuki and get started, I do just have a couple things to share. If you want to let us know where you're joining from in the chat, feel free to do so. If you're joining us from a school or organization, also please feel free to share in the chat. Right now, we've got over 170 different schools and classes joining us live, and that number is just going to grow as we continue with the session. One more thing. So yeah, if you do require closed caption, I suggest that you maybe log out of StreamYard, head over to YouTube. That's where you can access closed captioning for today's session. There is going to be lots of time for questions from the audience. So if you have a question, feel free to share it in the chat now. Hold on to it. We will be doing questions at the end of the session. And we do also have prizes. We have 5 copies of Dr. David Suzuki's Sacred Balance to give away to 5 educators joining us live. Now, Tim Patterson from the Little Nicola Band shared with one of our colleagues, it's not just about acknowledging the land or the people of a particular land, but asking what this knowledge and feeling compels you to do. And so for this year, for Take Me Outside Day, instead of doing a standard land acknowledgement, we are going to do a land acknowledgement mindfulness exercise. And so I'm going to ask that everybody close their eyes, and you can do this sitting. If you want to put your head down on your desk, just get in a comfortable position, whatever allows your body to feel supported and at ease. And you can take a deep breath in through your nose and slowly exhale through your mouth. Now let's do that 2 more times. Inhale and exhale. 1 more time, breathe in deeply and release. As your breath settles into a natural rhythm, allow your attention to drift inward. Notice the weight of your body being held by the ground or your chair beneath you. Notice any sensations, the warmth, the coolness, the fabric of your clothing, the air on your skin. Now, in your mind, let's begin to recall a time you were outdoors, a moment that you felt calm, joyful, or meaningful. Maybe it's playing at the park, walking in a forest, going to the lake, waiting for a bus, walking home from school, or even sitting in your backyard or on your apartment's patio. It can be any memory that makes you feel happiness, smile, or feel calm. Now take a moment to let that memory form. Where are you? What do you notice around you? What colors and shapes fill the scene? Notice the details, the texture of the ground beneath you, the scent of the air, the way the light moves through the trees or over the water. Now, begin to connect with the sounds of this place. What kind of sounds can you hear in this place? Maybe you can hear the crunch of gravel under your feet. Maybe you can hear birds singing or the wind in the leaves. Let those sounds fill your mind. Take another slow, deep breath in and breath out. Now notice how you feel in this place. Do you feel peaceful, excited, curious, free? Let that feeling grow a little stronger inside of you, like a warm light in your chest. This feeling is something nature gives us, a reminder that we're part of something big and beautiful. Take a moment to silently say thank you to this outdoor place and everything in it. Take a moment to say thank you to the animals, both big and small, that share this space with us. Take a moment to say thank you to the Indigenous people who steward and care for the land before us and continue to do so today. Now, when you're ready, imagine the memory slowly fading, but know you can always visit it again anytime you want to feel calm, strong, or happy. Now you can wiggle your fingers and toes, take 1 more big breath in, and let it out. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And so when I do this exercise, this is where I visit. I'm taken to a place by my house on the shores of the Red River where I feel deeply connected to the land and I feel a deep gratitude for the lessons the land teaches me through the seasons. I'm very honored to live and learn on Treaty 1 territory, which is the original lands of the Anishinaabe, the Innuak, the Dakota, and also the national homeland of the Red River Métis. And so this exercise is meant to encourage you that throughout this week, we want to invite you to give thanks to the places that you visited during this exercise, the places that you're visiting throughout the week when you go outside together as a class, and to learn more about whose traditional lands these are. So throughout this week, we ask that you craft a living land acknowledgement. And so a living land acknowledgement is a land acknowledgement that goes beyond a simple statement and is a dynamic, alive, and embodies action and commitment to truth and reconciliation. In these acknowledgements, you not only recognize the truth and local history of the land you're on, but it also provides an opportunity to express meaningful gratitude for the original caretakers of the land and the gifts and lessons the land offers us. Now, the person we're all really here to see. Today, we are honored to be joined by Dr. David Suzuki. David Suzuki is a grandfather, award-winning scientist, environmentalist, and broadcaster. He has made it his life's work to help humanity understand, appreciate, respect, and protect nature. He is familiar to television audiences from his 44 years as the host of the CBC Science and Natural History television series, The Nature of Things. In 2020, David received the Canadian Academy of Cinema and Television's Lifetime Achievement Award. He has been recognized by BC Achievement in partnership with the Lieutenant Governor of BC for his extraordinary work as a recipient of the 2021 BC Reconciliation Award. Dr. Suzuki is a companion to the Order of Canada and a recipient of UNESCO's Kalinga Prize for Science, the 2009 Right Livelihood Award, and UNEP's Global 500. He is a professor emeritus at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver and holds 32 honorary degrees from universities in Canada, the United States, and Australia. He has also his written works also include more than 56 books, 20 of them for children. And Dr. Suzuki lives with his wife and family in Vancouver, BC. So welcome, Dr. David Suzuki.
Thank you very much. You left out the most important part of all that introduction, which is that I have 10 grandchildren, and they are the great joy and light of my life. So I'm so happy I spend as much time with them as I can, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to talk to so many young people today, thanks to technology, I guess. I was trying to think what have I got to say to young people today. I grew up in a very, very different world. When I was a child, during 1942, Canada was at war with Japan, and although my mom and dad were born and raised in Canada, and my grandparents had come here from Japan, we were considered a threat to Canada and sent off to camps in the Rocky Mountains. We were in what was called a ghost town. It was a ghost town because it grew up during the gold rush back in the 1890s. And then when people, this little city grew up, and then when they didn't find any gold, they left, and there were these old buildings, and we got put up in these old hotel buildings. And it was way out in the wilderness. We weren't allowed to have radios. We weren't allowed to, there were, when I was a child, of course, there was no television anywhere on the planet. There were no computers anywhere in the world. It was a very different world. And the thing is, in the camp, I couldn't speak Japanese because my dad always said, we're Canadians. If you're going to learn a second language, you got to learn French. But most of the other kids in the camp spoke Japanese because their parents had come from Japan. So they bullied me. So I never wanted to play with these kids, but we were in this wonderful wilderness area. And I just spent all my time out in the wild. It's now Valhalla Provincial Park, but back then it was just wild country. And my father said, look, If you meet a wolf or a bear or anything like that, don't run away yelling and screaming. Just lower your head. You're in their territory. Show respect. Don't look them in the eye and just stand there. And then if they don't go away, then back away and everything will be fine. And I did meet wolves and I did meet bears, and they were very respectful of me because I showed respect. But that area was just, it was so wonderful. And I've grown up, with nature all my life then. We moved to London, Ontario after the war, and we had a tiny house. I had three sisters, only one bathroom. Uh, I never had to line up, bang on the door, say, "I gotta go, please let me in." I don't know how we did it, but there were my parents and three sisters and me, and one bathroom was fine. But all I remember is my mother always saying, "David, go outside." And I remember saying, "But mommy, it's pouring rain." She said, "I don't care. You've got a raincoat. Go outside. Call Bobby over there and go outside and play." And the amazing thing is when you go outside and it's pouring rain, you begin to see the water running down, and we'd dig little trenches and make little dams and have a little lake there. And then the next thing you know, we were racing these little sticks of wood going down the little creek. We had a wonderful time outside. And I really, life has changed a lot since those days. Back then, most Canadians lived in still small towns. Today, 85% of us live in cities. We've become, and I guess most of you watching this now live in cities. So, what does going outside mean? Um, the often you have to go a long distance for to find a park somewhere, and we think that nature is kind of out there, and we're here. Nature's not a part of our lives because we live in a city. In a city, mom and dad's most important worry is about a job. You need a job for the money to buy the things that you need. And so we're constantly thinking about the economy and how's the economy doing. And, we spend more and more time looking at our screens, and nature is out there. Well, I don't think that way. Nature is everywhere. We're still in nature, we're embedded in it, but we're not aware. Even when we're inside, nature is still here. What do you think is the most important thing everybody in the world needs, and you can't buy it? Of course, it's a breath of air. We don't think about that, but I want you to think about that, a breath of air. Just now, you all take a deep breath, hold it for 5 minutes, and I'll keep talking. Okay? You hold your breath now, and I'm going to keep talking. And of course, within 20 seconds, most of you are starting to turn bright pink. And by half a minute, most of you will have taken a breath. You cannot kill yourself by holding your breath deliberately. Your body will not allow you to do that. That's why when you hold your breath very quickly, your body is telling you, take a breath, take a breath. We need air every minute of our lives. If you don't have air for 3 to 4 minutes, you die. If you have to breathe polluted air, you get sick. I want you to think about that air now. Take a deep breath. It goes in either through your mouth, it goes through your nose, and all those hairs in your nose are filtering out the big stuff that's in the air. And then there are cells that squirt a little moisture into that air. Your body warms that air, and down it goes, down the bronchus and through the bronchus branches into bronchioles, smaller and smaller tubes, until it finally gets to the lungs. And your lungs are filled with millions of little capsules called an alveolus. Alveoli is more than one. And they're like little cups. and the surface of the cups are lined with what's called a surfactant. And the surfactant is sticky. So when the air comes in and hits it, it sticks. And right away, the oxygen in the air and whatever else is in the air is picked up by red blood cells. And with every beat of your heart, that air in the red blood cells is being pumped to every part of your body because, of course, we need oxygen, right? And when the air is stuck to that surfactant, the carbon dioxide that's been collected in your body comes into that little alveolus. So when you exhale, out comes the carbon dioxide. So we're breathing air in us, but if you breathe out, your lungs don't breathe all of the air out. If they did that, your lungs would collapse. About half of the air stays in your lungs. So what does that mean? That means air is in us, it is circulating through our bodies, and there's no line. You can't say air ends here and I begin there. The air is in us. It's stuck to us. We are air. We're air. We're a part of the air. And whatever comes out of our nose goes straight up the noses of everybody else. And that's why if you're sick with something, a cold or something, you should wear a mask so that when you go out, you don't share the cold with other people around you. And of course, you'd also, if there are people with a lot of uh, problems, bacteria, when infections, if they're circulating around, you want to wear a mask, among other things, to try to filter out some of that risk because we're all connected through the air. And so we have a responsibility, of course, of trying to keep that bad stuff from coming out. But we are air. And where do you think that air is coming from? It's not coming from the house. It's in the house, but it's not being uh, generated there. There isn't a factory out somewhere where we're creating air for us to breathe. It's produced by nature. And before there were any plants on this planet, there was no air that animals like us could breathe. There was atmosphere, but there was no oxygen because it was plants that found a way of taking carbon dioxide out of the air and converting that into things that plants needed. And they gave off a byproduct, a pollutant from photosynthesis called oxygen. And over millions and millions of years, that oxygen began to build up and the carbon dioxide began to get less and less. So the plants created the oxygen rich atmosphere that animals like us depend on. And to this day, it's all of the green things in the ocean and on land that are creating the air that animals like us can breathe. And don't forget, we are animals, and that's not an insult. I know some of my grown-up friends will sometimes say, "Oh, at that party, you behaved like an animal." And we're kind of insulting them because somehow we think we're special and better than animals. We're animals. And we depend on the air as much as any other animal. And we should be grateful to all of the plants that are giving us that air that we can breathe as animals. And getting outside, if you think about it, if you don't carry your cell phone or whatever, you're just outside playing. Think about that. Those green things everywhere are giving us the air that we depend on to breathe. And I like to think about myself when I'm outside. And the other thing that's as important as air, although we can live longer without it, is water. You know that every one of us is 60 to 70% water by weight. We're basically a big blob of water with enough thickener added so we don't dribble away on the floor. And we need water, but it leaks out of our skin and our eyes and our mouth. And when we pee, we lose water. If you don't have water for 4 to 6 days, you die. If you have to drink water, but that's polluted with stuff, you get sick. And water isn't made by some factory out there. Water is filtered. It's constantly through the hydrologic cycle. I don't know if you young ones have taken the hydrologic cycle, but water covers 71% of the planet. We're a water planet, not an earth planet. And the water, of course, evaporates and forms clouds and is blown across the surface of the earth. And when the clouds get heavy enough with water, they dump the water back down. Water is cartwheeling across the planet through the hydrologic cycle. In Vancouver, where I live, we get our water from three areas surrounded by old growth rainforest. And when it rains, then that water lands on the land, is filtered by the tree roots and all of the other plants and soil bacteria and fungi. It's cleansed as it percolates through the land and comes out into the rivers and the lakes that we create by dams. All of the water we get in Vancouver is filtered by nature, and we just have to turn on the tap and drink it. Now, sometimes if it rains excessively, there may be some mud and stuff that create, so the water comes out a little muddier, and we have to filter it or whatever. But nature is circulating the water around the planet through the hydrologic cycle, and nature is filtering that water that we're drinking here in Vancouver. So it's not a great uh, success, of our country that we buy water in bottles. That's not the way. We buy water in bottles, maybe because in some areas we've so polluted the waters that we now have to stop using that water. When I was your age, we would, if I was out canoeing on a river or lake, we'd just take our cup and drink whatever the water was right there without even thinking about it, because the water was constantly being refreshed and replenished by nature. And nature continues to do that. And so you should go out in the rain and know, wow, what a wonderful thing the hydrologic cycle is that circulates that water so that all over the planet, people and other animals and plants can take advantage of that water. We are water. I find it strange, if we are water, that we think we can dump our stuff into water and not worry about it, as if somehow it goes away. The same thing with air. If we are air, then when your parents start up the car, if it's not an electric car, boom, all that stuff coming out of the exhaust is going into you and me, because we are air, and whatever we put into the air, we put it into ourselves. I wonder, I should tell you a story. It's an amazing story that shows how connected we are with air. There was a scientist at Harvard University many years ago who said, "What happens to one breath of air?" And well, how do you follow a breath of air? Well, 20% of the air is oxygen. We take a breath, it goes into our bodies, and a lot of the oxygen doesn't come back out. 80% is nitrogen. Well, it's 19% is oxygen. 80% is nitrogen. You breathe it in. Some of the nitrogen stays in your body, but 1% of the air is an element called argon. Argon it doesn't react with anything chemically. You breathe it in, goes in your body, breathe it out, comes back out. So argon then is an indicator, a measure of a breath of air. And Shapley asked, how many atoms of argon in one breath of air? Now, you kids, your lungs are smaller, but let's say it's for an adult, okay, like me. And he calculates, and on average, one breath of air is 3 times 10 to the 19th. What that means is 3 followed by 19 zeros. So you write that down on your page and you'll 19 zeros. That's how many argon atoms in one breath of air. Okay, so let's say I'm going to follow my breath now. Just breathed it out. Well, within seconds, of course, it's mixing in the air. That's why if you've ever gone into a room where someone was smoking, as soon as you go in, you can smell it, right? Or if someone lights up, well, I hope none of you are seeing this anymore, but it used to be when I was young, people would light up a cigarette. You could smell it instantly because it's spreading in the room, but the doors are open. Out that breath goes out over Vancouver. And now, get this, 1 year later, Shapley calculates, assuming that that air just gets mixed up and blown around the planet. 1 year later, every breath you take will have about 15 argon atoms from that one breath we took a year before. That's incredible. So that we're sharing this air and it's spreading all over the planet, which means every time you take a breath of air, you're breathing in atoms that were in the bodies of Joan of Arc, of Jesus Christ, of dinosaurs 65 million years ago. We are air, and we're all connected through that air to everyone on the planet and to people from the past. And all the air we breathe will go into the bodies of people into the future. And so to me, air is this amazing gift from nature. And it's the same thing that water is, this incredible result of the hydrologic cycle. And we are water. We are air. We are the food that we eat. You know that every bit of the food that you eat to make your body was once alive. It was another life form. So we take the carcasses of plants or animals that we cook or eat raw, and we tear them apart with our teeth, and then with all of the stuff that's left after we chew them up, we make our bodies out of them, out of the bodies of plants and animals. And all of them ultimately come from the soil. And we are then the soil. We are the earth through the food that we eat. And again, knowing that, it's really weird. There was a group of pesticides that we, when I say we, environmentalists were fighting against a few years ago. They're called neonicotinoids. And we were fighting against them because honeybees were very, very sensitive to neonicotinoids. And the way that they're using these neonicotinoid pesticides was the plants were soaked, the seeds were soaked in neonicotinoids, so that when you plant them, then the roots and the stems and the leaves, the whole plant is filled with neonicotinoids. And it's a way of killing insects, but it means whatever we eat, we're going to eat the neonicotinoids in the food that we're eating. And I asked the question, how do these neonicotinoids kill insects? And it turns out they're nerve neurotoxins. They kill the nerves. Wait a minute now. I was studying fruit flies in my lab years ago, and we got a big grant from the government because we found a mutation that affects nerves in fruit flies. And the government gave us a grant because the nerves in insects like fruit flies, they're the same as nerves in people. So by studying the nerves in the fruit fly, we learn about the nerves in people. Now, then you start thinking, wait, neonicotinoids affect the insects by killing nerves, and it's in the food that we're eating. Could that be related to autism rates that are rising? Wait a minute now. We're eating food that is filled with poisons that kill by attacking nerves. Some people are saying, oh, it's vaccines that are killing or causing autism. Hey, wait a minute. I mean, that the study that got people all concerned about vaccines has been shown to be is disproved long ago. Vaccines were one of the greatest discoveries of science ever. And to think that people are blaming vaccines when the food that we're eating is filled with chemicals that attack nerves is crazy. But I think, when we go out, we've got to know our relationship then with other plants and animals. They are, in many ways, our food. And whatever we do to animals and plants, we're doing to ourselves. We are the earth. And finally, I just want to say that all of the energy, in order to move or jump or work or play, we need energy, right? You have to have energy to do that. And where does that energy in our bodies come from? We say, oh, it comes from the food. We eat energy foods. Yes, but all of it comes out to be sunlight. The sun pours energy onto the planet in the form of light, and plants have found a way to capture that energy. It's called photosynthesis. And what they do is they trap in chlorophyll, these little, well, they're like catcher's mitts. They're little catcher's mitts, and when a light beam of light comes, they grab it. And that little beam of light or photon that they captures is full of energy. And what these chlorophyll molecules do is convert that energy into a chemical. They store it in a chemical that's a high energy chemical. So it's got that photon in it, and it stores it in our bodies. We get it by eating the plants or eating animals that eat the plants. We get that energy and put it in our bodies. And anytime we have to work or do anything, we burn. Now, burning is a chemical process. We burn those energetic molecules and get the energy of the sun back out in our bodies. When we burn oil, coal, gas, wood, we even burn dung or peat, that's all sunlight. Sunlight captured by plants and stored in these energetic molecules, and then we just burn them and release the energy of the sun back out. So this is, to me, the foundation of the way that we live. The air, it comes from Mother Nature. The water is filtered by Mother Nature in the hydrologic cycle. The food that we create our bodies from, plants or animals growing in the soil, and all of the energy in our bodies is sunlight captured by plants. So to me, this is the most profound lesson that we get from thinking about nature. Nature isn't out there. Even in our houses, we're still breathing the air, drinking the water, eating the food, all of it that comes from nature. And so I think that the idea of going outside, we should be outside all the time. I mean, 1 hour a day, come on. But if we're going to stay inside, we should be thinking about that too. When you turn on the lights, where do you think the electricity comes from? Well, depending on where you are, it'll come from a dam that's generating electricity. It may come from solar panels. It may come from windmills. It may come from a coal burning plant, but that energy comes from nature. When I often ask kids, when you put the garbage on the curb and it gets taken away, where does it go? It doesn't just disappear. It goes back ultimately into the earth, goes into dumps. But, in nature, there's no such thing as garbage or waste. If an elephant poops on the grassland somewhere, that's a big pile of poop. Right away, insects and fungi and bacteria jump on that and go, yummy, this is lunch. So in nature, one organism's waste is another organism's opportunity. And we should be doing that more and more instead of just dumping it out there. We can't keep using the earth as a garbage can. So, of course, we have to reduce the amount of garbage we make. We have to recycle and all of that other stuff. But we should think about that. When you turn on the tap, where does the water come from? And I like to tell kids in Toronto this because when I say, where does your water come from? They go, oh, the tap. Yeah, yeah, but where? Uh, well, it comes out of Lake Ontario, one of the Great Lakes. Oh, they didn't know that the lake right nearby is where we get our water. Then I say, when you flush the toilet, where does that go? They don't know. Well, it goes into a big holding area. It gets filtered. The stuff gets taken out of it, and then it settles, and bacteria and organisms then take out all the organic material and recycle stuff. And ultimately, after being processed, it goes out into Lake Ontario. So when you take a drink, guess what? And that's when Mr. Musk, Elon Musk wants to go to Mars, and it's going to take at least 2.5 months in that rocket. They're not going to be able to ship all that water that they're going to need for 2.5 months. What are they going to do? Of course, they're going to have to eat their poop. I'm sure it'll be treated in a way so it's no longer recognized as poop, and they're going to have to drink their pee and whatever water comes out of their poop. In other words, they're going to have to be a little bit of nature in that capsule that they're going in, and have to recycle things the way nature does outside here on the planet. But if we think about, the way that we're living, from the clothing that we wear to the toys we play with, to your laptops or cell phones, where do they come from? Oh yeah, they're produced by human activities, human industry. But where does the industry get the raw materials? And guess what? It all comes from nature. And so I think we have to be more thoughtful. Going outside is not only good for you physically and psychologically, but it's an opportunity, it seems to me, for us to think about nature and the way that we're all connected. And when you're inside, turn off your screen, stop, and just think about that. One interesting thing is, if your mom or dad orders you a pizza, look at that and think, huh, I get this pizza because we have a telephone or a computer. We can order it. All of that stuff we're using comes out of the earth. But then when you get your pizza and you look at the box, where does the box come from, and all the print on the box? Well, guess what? The the paper comes from ultimately wood that was harvested somewhere, the ink and all that comes from somewhere else. And then you look at the pizza itself. There's flour in it and salt and pepper and sugar and tomatoes. And you start looking at that pizza and you realize it has come from all over the world. Mother Nature has made all of that stuff that makes the pizza. We're living in a way where we are utterly embedded in nature and dependent on it. And I think that's the lesson that we should be getting every time we go outside or whenever we're sitting inside. How connected we are, and therefore how grateful we should be that nature is so generous that we can live the way that we do, where everything in our houses are come ultimately from nature. From the glass in the window behind me, the wood there and the trim, all of that. Everything comes from nature. And the crisis we face today with the environment is we're not treating Mother Nature in a good way. And we're poisoning Mother Nature by the stuff we throw into the air, the water, and the soil. And that simply has got to stop. So that's my lesson to you. I hope it gives you an idea that outside and inside are very, very arbitrary things, but nature is still around us. It's in us. We are a part of nature and dependent on nature. Over to you, Rachel. Thank you very much, Rachel, for your introduction. You did it all for me.
Oh, well, you did such a lovely wow, just like thank you so much for sharing about how we're all connected and, we are nature and nature is a part of us and how we need to really take care of it so that we take care of ourselves. Um, and we've had such great engagement from the chat to so many classes sharing how thankful they are for sharing your wisdom, your stories. Um, we do have some time for questions. We did have a couple pre-submitted questions that we'll start with. So a grade 5-6 class from Cherry Hill Elementary School wants to know, what is the most interesting thing that you've discovered about the world in your studies?
Sorry, I was just looking at a question here. I got distracted. Sorry,
Oh,
what
okay.
was the question?
It's what is the most interesting thing you've discovered about the world in your studies?
Well, I don't like to say what is we're always looking for what is the best, what is the biggest, what is the smallest. I don't know. I just think nature is fascinating, and one of the things I'm trying to show in the books that I write for young people, uh, and I'm doing it now in a series that's coming out called Bompa's. Well, the first one is Bompa's Insect Expedition. I always loved insects.
Mhm.
And, the most important group of animals on the planet are insects. They are the most numerous, the most diverse, and the most important from an environmental standpoint, the most important ones. But because some insects, like some mosquitoes, like some insects that affect plants that we grow for food, then we're spraying the whole planet with insecticides just to kill a few insects that are pests to humans. We're spreading insecticides that kill all insects. This is really crazy. The biggest crisis we're facing right now on land is a crisis of insects going extinct at a terrifying rate. And I just love insects, and I think that again, I when I see someone in a house and they're going, oh, look at the ant, or oh, the flies, they're awful, and we act like these are terrible things, and we've demonized insects. So I would say, if look at insects, they are so fascinating, so diverse, so incredibly um, important in our lives. I have 7-year-old twin grandchildren, and their mother is my daughter is a marine biologist, and a professor from my University of Miami came to visit at our cabin. And after the first night, the professor brought her daughter. She came out and said, "Oh, look at Zelda. She's covered in mosquito bites. I wish there weren't mosquitoes." And Nakina, my 7-year-old granddaughter, said, "But the bats and the frogs and the fish eat those mosquitoes." And the professor went, "Oh, you're right, but there are other insects. I mean, just get rid of the mosquitoes." And Nakina said, and this amazed me, she said, "I wouldn't want to live in a world without mosquitoes." And I thought that was
Mm.
so profound. That's the kind of thing that we should be thinking. Just because mosquitoes are, a pest to us, we just declare war on them. And the reason why birds migrate all the way from South America up to the Arctic, one of the reasons is that when they form their nests in the Arctic, there are abundant mosquitoes. Mosquitoes depend on the caribou up in the north. They drive the caribou crazy, but because the mosquitoes thrive with caribou, they're able to have large numbers that feed the birds that come all the way from South America to have their babies. So, we've got to be much more thoughtful about all of this. Yes, mosquitoes are a pest to us. There are ways of keeping them away without killing all insects around us. I love the story about the Dalai Lama, who was asked, "If an insect is biting you, what do you do?" He said, "I just brush it away and say goodbye." And someone persisted and said, "But what do you do if it comes back and bites you again?" He said, "Oh, I would brush it away." And the person said, "Well, if he comes back a third time, what would you do?" And the Dalai Lama said, "I would kill it." So he, yes, we'll get rid of it, but you try other ways first before you finally resort to the final
Hmm.
solution.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. Such a sweet story about your grandchild there, just showing how much of impact you've had. Um, We've got a grade 3-6 class that said last year our outdoor learning lunch group saw a tadpole pond dry up and evaporate during a heat wave. We made some movies about salmon and climate change to show them to our school on Earth Day. We fell in love with the earth and we want to care for her. Our question is, how do we become so powerful and influence on caring for the environment? Because we want to make a difference and we admire you. How you care for the environment? And so we're wondering if you have some advice on how we can make a difference.
Yes, my advice is that we're going to really begin to change through love. We have to love Earth the way that we love our mom and dad. And mom and dad, in turn, have to love you enough to do something for you. So I tell children the two most important people in your lives are mom and dad. And if mom and dad love you, they must be warriors to protect the earth on your behalf. If mom and dad are saying, "Oh, I'm too busy," and no, no, climate change, no, I don't want to change my way. I don't want to take the bus instead of driving. Mom and dad have to think about you. And you, in turn, have to say, "Mom and dad, I'm learning that we depend on nature for our well-being. What are we doing? What are you doing to protect my future?" And uh, I think children, worrying about Mother Nature shouldn't be your job at this point. You should just be going out learning about how Mother Nature is a part of your life. When I met Greta Thunberg, who I think is just a fantastic person and had a huge impact on the world, But the first thing I said when I met her the first time was, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry you have to do this. This shouldn't be your job. You know, your job as a young person is to learn about the world around and history and our connection to other countries and you're away from home a lot so you can make new relationships. You can get a boyfriend, a girlfriend. I mean, that's your job. Mom and dad are the ones who brought you into this world and who care about you. Mom and dad have to be the warriors on your behalf. And they have to be warriors. It's not going to be easy. I am sure if you go into your house and look at all the things that you've got and say, do I really need this? Why do we have all this stuff here? Why do I need a new shirt just because it looks cool? Why do I, start thinking about your life and what mom and dad are doing to help you live in a different way.
Great. Thank you. Um, Jessica wants to know, are your new books inspired by your grandchildren? I know you spoke about this a little bit, but maybe you can share a little bit about
Yeah,
the adventures you've
my
had together.
yes, I'm bringing out a series of books now, and they're designed after my 7-year-old twins. Of course, they'll get older with time, but my daughter Severn used to call my father, her grandfather, not grandpa, but Bompa. I don't know why she did, but it was always Bompa. And so all of my grandchildren now have carried on the tradition and call me Bompa. And so the first book came out last year, and it's been very well reviewed. And it's called Bompa's Insect Expedition. So I try to take my grandchildren out on nature hikes whenever I can. And this is one where we go looking for insects in our backyard. The second one is now going to come out. It's now in being printed. It's called Bompa's intertidal expedition or some intertidal. It's the zone of the area along the beach or the shore where the tides, this is in the ocean, the tides come in and go out. So it's an area that is covered in water, but then is dried when the tides go out. It's a very special part of the ocean ecosystem. So the intertidal zone. And the one after that is going to be uh, the my favorite place when I was a child, and I've taken my grandchildren. They all love it. It's a swamp, and
Mm,
we tend to swamp. The word swamp is, we think it's smelly or dangerous, or the swamp is well, I think we are going to call it a bog,
mm,
but it's a wetland. But
mhm,
this is one of the areas that is absolutely fascinating, and it's still a wild area that if you lose your inhibition about walking into a swamp, and my grandchildren do it with their running shoes and pants on, they get wet.
mhm,
But with nets, dip nets, oh my goodness,
mhm,
uh, it's just a magical place. And the one that I grew up with in London, if there are any London kids, I used to go out Oxford, west on Oxford, past Warncliffe, out about 2 kilometers. There was Sifton's Bog. And
mm,
Sifton's Bog was a magical place for me as a child. But now it's covered with tarmac and asphalt and concrete. It's a parking lot for a huge shopping center.
mm,
So I think it's important to have old people like me to tell you what it used to be like.
mm,
And let's protect whatever nature is still out there for
mhm,
your children.
mhm. Yeah. That's the thing. I used to have a swamp too behind my house when I was a child, and I think it's one of the reasons I love and do this work so much
Is
today.
it still there?
I'm actually not sure because this was a while ago. I don't live there anymore, so I don't
Yeah.
know. I really hope it is, though. I really hope it
Yeah.
is. Yeah. I think we have time for one more question here. What would be one message of conservation and environmentalism you would share with students living in urban environments like Brampton, Ontario?
Consumption. We're
Mm,
consuming the earth to death. So much of what we buy now is just, and I look, at Christmases, we try very, very hard to make our Christmas presents, for example, meaningful. Um, but the stuff that comes out, and so much of it is oh, look what I've got, play with it for a few minutes, and then guess what? A week later, it's totally forgotten, and we'll end up in the garbage somewhere. I mean, why do we need all this stuff?
mhm,
And I think that's where we have to think about it. Everything that we use came ultimately from the earth, and when it's no longer used, will go back into the earth. And so much of it is just for a little stream of, oh, this is nice, and then boom, it's gone. I also think one issue that is just really depressed me is the consequence of the use of plastics
mm,
and the fact that the plastic breaks down and it's when I take a drink of water, it doesn't matter if you take a drink from a plastic bottle,
mhm,
it's got microplastics in it and it's in us. And we should think very much about the things in our surroundings that are they're going to have severe consequences, it seems to me. So we've
mhm,
got to change the way that we consume and the way that we live.
mhm, mhm. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. I do have one last question for you. How are you planning on getting outside today?
Well, I have to go out to if nothing else, to put the compost out. I
Mhm,
mean, going out is just a part of the way
mm,
I live. It's not something I got to go outside for
yeah.
1 hour now. No,
Yeah.
that's not the way it is.
Mhm,
And we try to keep the doors open all the time so that we're exchanging the air. And I'm not going to make you all jealous of the fact that I live right here on the ocean and I can go to the beach anytime.
mhm. Yes. Well, again, thank you so much. There's so many positive comments in the chat of people just sharing both what this session has meant, what your series, The Nature of Things, has meant to them growing up as teachers, and what important lessons you shared today for their students. So I just want to say thank you again for sharing your time with us,
Thank
and
you.
sharing your wisdom. It was much appreciated.
Okay. Thanks a
Yes.
lot. See
Thank
you
you.
guys.
Bye. Just a few things to wrap up the session. Just a reminder, we do have two more sessions happening today with Earth Rangers. You can also share in the chat what you are planning to do to get outside today. We do have some prizes to give away. I think just due to time, we will be sending out an email later today with all the prize winners from today. As a reminder, I've got 5 copies of Sacred Balance by David Suzuki to give away to educators. I've picked names from folks who attended the session today, and your name will be listed in the recap email that's sent out today. But again, just a reminder, we've got a full week of sessions happening this week. We're really thankful for these amazing partners here who have donated prizes and resources to help support the week. And we want to see how you are getting outside. So please share any photos, any learning moments you have with us via email or social media. And like I said, there will be a recap email with recording of today's session, as well as all prize winners from today. And we hope to see you at a future session this week. And happy trails.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye. Have a great time outside.